No me entraron.
No can.
Okay, Mom. Welcome guys to the first ever Pinki's Palette live webinar. I'm so excited to be sharing some new recipes with you guys, as well as just, talking about what the JAIN diet is and how to follow it in today's day and age. Just a background on Pinki's Palette. I started this blog in college out of a need to find other options for food. We were on a meal plan with the dorms, and a lot of the vegetarian options would contain eggs or would contain non-JAIN products. And I grew up eating a strict JAIN diet, which means vegetarian as well as no animal byproducts such as gelatin and no root vegetables. And the reason why Jains don't eat root vegetables is because the whole diet is based on nonviolence, and this means nonviolence in the form of animals, but also in the smallest forms of life, such as microorganisms. And root vegetables tend to have more microorganisms, which is why Jains tend to avoid them. And one thing that is tough today, though, is that these ingredients are often mixed into a lot of products we find or when we eat out. And so a lot of the time, cooking from scratch not only allows you to follow JAIN diet, but it lets you know what you're putting into your food and creates a more health conscious environment. And a lot of people ask me, if you can't eat, carrots or onions, what do you eat? And the response I have is there are so many options today. There are over 400 vegetables out there, and eliminating a few does not compromise taste. And in fact, I feel that having what we call restrictions is actually something that makes you more creative with the resources you have. I will be demonstrating some recipes for you guys today, and as a student myself, I realize the importance of having quick on-the-go recipes as well as things that are easy to make, not intimidating, and has simple ingredients where you don't have to go to Whole Foods and search down every aisle for that one rare ingredient. Before I start though, I wanted to just kind of talk about what I stock my kitchen with. Right now I'm at home, so I'm in my mom's kitchen. Some of the essentials that I feel are really important to being able to cook at home are things like a powerful blender. Here I have a Vitamix, but you can also use things like a Ninja or a NutriBullet. And these are really great because you can make pretty much anything from subji gravies to soups to smoothies and juices, salsa, which we'll be demonstrating today. And the second thing that I really love to have in my kitchen is a food processor, because this allows you to make things like sauces such as pesto or hummus and energy bites, which we'll also be making today. One other thing that I would highly recommend if you're following a plant-based diet is having a slow cooker, a pressure cooker, or something called an Instant Pot, which is all of those in one. And those will help you cook your legumes and your beans much more quickly and have them ready for your meals throughout the day. So that's kind of what I stock my kitchen with. I think one of the things that I miss the most about being home is my mom's cooking, and that would be Indian food. So one of the kitchen hacks I've found for Indian food is these awesome packets. So this is from Rasoi Magic, and it's a no onion, no garlic spice mix for different types of Indian curries. So this one is paneer makhanwala, then we have veg kola puri, and paneer tikka masala. And you can find these at your local Indian grocer or even online, and they make it so simple and so easy to make Indian food because all the spices are ready and mixed for you. All you have to do is blend up your tomatoes and your vegetables and add paneer if it's paneer curry, and just let it simmer, and it's that easy. So that's one thing that I really love about Indian food. And of course you can cook Indian food from scratch too, but if you're a student or if you're living a busy life, this is really great for that. The next thing I wanted to share was just like some of the things I do on a daily basis for on-the-go breakfast options. I love using mason jars, and I will put my greens and frozen fruit, some bananas, nuts, and just freeze them in these jars. And then when I'm ready, I'll just grab some nut milk or hemp milk like I have right here and fill it to the top, and then dump this entire thing in the blender blend it, and then pour it back into this jar. And now I have a smoothie to go. And you can stock these jars up in your freezer, have different varieties, so you always have it ready, and it's the right portion as well. And the next mason jar idea that I really like is having oats to go. I think in today's day we worry so much about protein intake, and we tend to forget about fiber. In fact, on a normal plant-based diet, if you're eating enough calories, you will be getting enough protein for your daily requirement. And for somebody between 120 to 175 pounds, that can be between 40 to 50 grams of protein a day. And you can calculate that. A nutritionist can help you do that. I'm not a registered dietitian, but this is just out of my passion and interest in research in this. So if you want to know more about what your specific intake is, I would suggest consulting a dietitian. As I was saying, one of the nutrients that we do forget about and lack highly in the American or Western diet is fiber. And fiber is really important for keeping you full throughout the day so that you're not snacking on unhealthy things between meals. So one thing that's really great is having whole grain oats. I really love thick rolled oats, and you can get so creative with these jars. So for example, this oatmeal jar, I added some protein powder, thick rolled oats, chia seeds, hemp seeds, which have great omega-3 fatty acids, and some nuts. And then when I would be taking this out for the day, I might add some fresh fruit on top. And when I'm ready, I just heat up some water and put it in here and seal the jar and let it sit for a little bit. And you can also have these oats cold, so putting some nut milk in, letting it soak, kind of makes it more of a porridge pudding texture as well. And that's really great for the summer when you want something cool. And that will keep you full for a really long time. And even with the added protein powder, you'll be getting your protein intake. I know there's this big trend about having brunch these days, so one of the recipes I wanted to show you today was a recipe for Tofu Scramble, which you can also use as a filling for breakfast burritos. First, you need a block of extra firm tofu, and all you're gonna do is you're gonna rinse it and drain it, and then just take the block in a colander and crumble it with your hands. So it'll look like this. Just going to heat it up in the pan, and while that's heating up, I'm going to add some chopped green chilies that I have right here. Usually one chili is enough if it's really spicy. You can also omit this if you want something that's not too spicy. And I'll just wait until that sizzles a little bit. And that's just going to make the oil a little bit more spicy too. Just gonna add a couple spoons of this tofu. So usually one block will make a good 2 to 3 servings if you want as a full meal, or about 4 servings if it's a side dish as well. Use that a little bit more. And then so you're gonna just let that saute for a little bit. Until it's lightly browned. And in the meantime, we'll work on the spice mix. So here I have some turmeric, some cumin, some salt, and some chili powder too. So what I'll do is I'm just going to add some water to this and make it into a paste. I'm just gonna stir it all together. And while that's still cooking, we'll add some black beans, which adds even more protein to your dish. And also, eating too much soy isn't bad per se, but it is a processed food, so mixing in some natural proteins is also good. And of course, throughout this process, if there are any types of beans or vegetables that you don't like, you can always substitute it for something else. These recipes are very versatile. So I have some chopped zucchini right here. And it's important to add your tougher vegetables first because those need to be cooked longer, and things like peppers will cook really fast, so you want to add those towards the end, otherwise they'll become too soggy and lose its crunchiness. And I also like to add some celery because that adds some crunch to it. Another great thing to add to the tofu scramble is some leafy greens. You can add kale, for example, which I have here, or whatever your favorite leafy green vegetable is. Kale is really great because it's high in vitamin K and a bunch of other vitamins. It's naturally a superfood. And because kale is a little bit tougher too, I add that before I add the peppers. And now we can also add our spice paste. And if you feel like it's too dry, you can always add a little bit of water in to the mix. So I'm just going to do that here. And that'll help cook things as well. Another great thing to add is peppers. You can choose any color. I really like red peppers in a tofu scramble, especially roasted red peppers. You can get those jarred usually, or you can roast your own, and I have a recipe on how to roast red peppers on my blog as well. You're welcome to check out. I think fresh herbs really make a big difference in taste, and they're so easy to even grow in your own garden or on your balcony. They're super easy to keep alive, which is really great. And they're always on hand that way. Now we'll add some lemon juice as well. This will help bring in all of the flavors together. Usually the juice of half a lemon, like half a small size lemon, is enough for a single serving. And one thing I really like eating tofu scramble with is some fresh salsa, and especially if you make it into a breakfast burrito. I'm just making a simple roasted corn and tomato salsa. So what I'm going to be utilizing is some Roma tomatoes. So I have about 4 Roma tomatoes that are halved here, and I'm gonna add some roasted corn. I got some frozen roasted corn at Trader Joe's, and it's really tasty. You can also use fresh corn that you take off the cob. I'm just gonna add half of it because I don't want to crush all of it, and then have some so the salsa is a little bit chunky. I'm also going to add 1 green chili. You can use jalapeno, serrano pepper, whatever you please. And I'm going to add some chopped bell pepper. I have green bell pepper here. And because we're not using onion, which is a common ingredient in salsa, I like to substitute it with celery, which actually gives it that same kind of texture that some people like, where it's a little bit crunchy. And finally, cilantro. Again, you can make this however you really like. This is just kind of the basic foundation for making a JAIN salsa. I've tried some where I add mango to it and roast the tomatoes before putting it in. That adds a little bit more of a smoky flavor. The last ingredient that we're going to add to this salsa is some lemon juice. Again, this is about 1 tablespoon of lemon juice, and we'll also add some salt in. I have some Himalayan pink salt, but you can really use any salt, and just adjust it to taste. I give it a few spins on this. So now this is ready, and all we have to do is blend it. And if you want it more chunky, then keep it on a lower speed, but if you want it more pureed, then you can put it on a higher speed. And that's it. Now I'm just going to add the remainder of the corn. So that it gives it a little bit of a chunky texture. And I'm going to just stir it around. You have your fresh roasted corn tomato salsa, and you can taste it, see if it's to your liking, or add more salt or lemon juice, just to show you guys. can see, that's what it looks like. And so we'll serve this with our tofu scramble, which is pretty much done. At this point, I like to add some chopped cherry tomatoes. You don't have to because you have a salsa, but if you don't have a salsa, it adds a great flavor. And that's it. It's really that simple. And you can use this as a filling with your breakfast burritos with adding some more leafy greens and avocado, because that's always the best ingredient for any of us. And so I'll serve some salsa on the side. And there you have your first breakfast meal. The next thing we're going to make are some energy bites. And if you've ever had a Lara bar, this is very similar to that. And they're so simple and easy to make at home. And that makes them cheaper than buying a lot of granola bars or Lara bars. And they're totally customizable. So you can use whatever superfoods that you like, from nuts and seeds and grains to dried berries like goji berries. Those are really high in antioxidants as well. And I think these are a really good snack for when you're just like reaching for that something sweet. And you can make them ahead of time and just store them in the fridge as well. The first ingredient we're going to use is the superfoods, because we want to blend everything into kind of like a flour texture so it holds all of the ingredients together. So I'm going to start with 1 cup of nuts. Here I have a mix of half almonds and half walnuts. You can use any type of nut that you like. I'm also going to add some protein powder, because if you're trying to eat these after a workout or something, it might be helpful to eat it that way as well. So this is the Vega protein and greens. I'm adding about a scoop of that. I'm also going to add about a tablespoon of chia seeds, and again, these are really great because you can add them to anything. I'm also going to add some hemp seeds right here. So this is about a tablespoon of hemp seeds, again really high in omega-3s. And I'm going to add about a tablespoon of oats, which will help hold everything together too. So all these ingredients we're going to first blend into a flour-like texture, a little bit gritty, not totally fine. Really, this recipe only takes 5 to 10 minutes to make, and you'll have probably a good 10 to 15 bites that you can make out of this proportion of the recipe. So here I have medjool dates that I've already pitted, and I have about 1 cup of them, which is give or take about 8 to 10 dates. And dates are really great for energy. I think starting your day with a couple of dates is really beneficial to your health, as well as I really love adding some nut butter in the middle and eating it like that. I think that's really tasty too. So I'm just going to add these in. And so you're going to blend this until it's a little bit of a sticky dough that forms. Okay, I'm going to blend that up again. It's getting into a more doughy form. This is kind of what the dough looks like, almost like cookie dough, which this could be like raw cookie dough. You could just eat it straight. But I'm gonna add some coconut. I have shredded unsweetened coconut. It's about half a cup that I'm gonna be adding in. And I'm also going to add some coconut oil. So I'm adding about 1 tablespoon of coconut oil. You can also use coconut butter. You can use your favorite nut butter, like almond butter. You can also use tahini, which is a sesame seed paste. For this recipe, I'm going to use this coconut oil. Just drop that in there. Right, so we're gonna blend this one more time. Right, so that looks pretty good to me. This is what the dough looks like. You're just going to either press this into a pan and cut it into bars later, or you can just kind of in your hand make them into little bite-sized rounds. Just kind of press it all together. If anyone's really good at making roti, this is good practice. Alright, so that's kind of what it looks like. As you can see. And so what I like to do is either coat this in raw cacao powder, so you can just roll it in that, or even in sesame seeds, which is what I have right here. I have some black and white sesame seeds mixed, and just kind of dip it in there as if they're sprinkles. And then you have your coated energy bite. This is completely natural. All the ingredients in here are whole ingredients, which means you're getting all of your amino acids from the proteins, and it's totally guilt-free, so you can eat as many of these as you want. Not really, but in theory. So I would just make more of those out of the remainder of the dough. I have a lot of dough here from just those few ingredients, and I could probably make, I'd say, somewhere between 15 and 20 of these bites. And these are, again, a really great thing to take to potlucks, or if somebody asks you to bring a dessert for dinner, this is a good, healthy option to bring to. One thing that's really great is you can just buy like 10 different types of vegetables and make so many different dishes with it. And it all comes down to how you season or how you flavor things, as well as what kind of base you use. If you use a grain like quinoa or a rice, or if you use a tortilla and make a burrito. This next recipe is kind of a twist on a South Indian dish called uthapam, which is normally a process done through blending lentils and rice and a fermentation process. But when we're on the go, I thought of making something using pancake mix, actually. So first I want to show you what pancake mix I'm using for this, which I think is really important. You don't want to get a pancake mix that is sweetened already, because that won't be savory and it might taste a little bit odd. So I got this at Costco, and it's called Kodiak Cakes, Power Cakes, and it's the protein-packed buttermilk flapjack and waffle mix. And this is completely JAIN. It has no eggs, and really the only ingredients in here are 100% whole grain wheat flour, 100% whole grain oat flour, and a protein blend, which they use different milk protein isolates. So it's not vegan, but you can find vegan pancake mixes and do this the same way. I've already pre-measured this out here, so I have just the flour that it comes with. To make these, you just add a equal part of water. So I have 1 cup here, and I'm gonna add 1 cup of water. But I'm just going to slowly add some of the water and whisk it so it's smooth, and get rid of all the bumps. So you can also add yogurt if you want instead of water. That'll give it a more creamy texture and more of a sour taste that you would get with regular uthapam dishes. And so this is a pretty good consistency, I think. I'm going to now heat up this griddle, and while that gets warmed, we'll make the coconut chutney. You want to put it on a medium heat, not too hot, otherwise it'll burn, and if it's too low, it won't cook fully either. You can even add some like dried oregano or parsley to the batter itself that cooks within it. I'll be adding everything as toppings in this case. For the coconut chutney, again, this is really all just done in the blender. So I've measured out about 1 cup of plain yogurt. You can use Greek yogurt, although I haven't really tried it with that. I'm using just like regular plain yogurt that you might find at any grocery store, or even in your general markets. And you want to warm this in the microwave for about 30 seconds before putting it in here, and that'll help it blend better as well. I've already warmed this up, so I'm going to go ahead and pour this into the blender. Okay. And then you can buy frozen shredded coconut, which is what I'm using here. Again, it's about 1 cup that I'm using, and I'm just going to add that in as well. The next ingredient I'm going to add is some cilantro, and I'm adding maybe about a tablespoon or so of cilantro. The last ingredient that you can add if you want it to be a little bit spicy is a chili. So I'm going to add about half of it, because the portion size that I'm making right now is good probably for a couple people, and we don't want to make it too spicy. And again, if you remove the seeds from within your chili pepper, it'll bring down the heat as well. If you keep them in, it'll be nice and spicy. Adding half of the chili in. And now all we do is blend it. And that's it. And you have your coconut chutney. It's that simple. You can add mint if you like that. You can even use this as like a veggie dip. If you're packing lunch and just have some, you know, veggie sticks like peppers or cucumbers, you can take this on the side and use it as a dip. You could also use it as a spread if you make it a little bit thicker on some toast. Really any way you would eat yogurt. Now we're going to start with the masala cakes. We'll make a couple here. You can kind of spread it out a little bit too, if it's thick. If you make the batter thin, it'll spread out on its own. I'm actually going to just drizzle some olive oil around the edges. You can use coconut oil as well. And we'll just let that cook there. So while that's cooking, what makes this savory is adding all the vegetables and something called spiced chutney powder. While this is still wet and thick, I'm going to add some of the veggies. So I'm adding some purple cabbage, which is super healthy and tasty as well. Adds a lot of color to your dish too. I'm gonna add some diced bell pepper. I like to add some cilantro on this as well. So the part that makes this savory is using something called spiced chutney powder. You can find this at local Indian grocers or online as well. And you can really use any type of spice mix that you like. If you like more of like a Mexican spice, Trader Joe's has this seasoning blend called chili lime, and this is all JAIN as well. You can even add tomatoes to this. We have a few cherry tomatoes, I might as well add those in as well. And if you guys can see this, it's super colorful. I'm just going to drizzle a little bit of olive oil on top too, in the center. And so I'll add the spiced chutney powder now before we flip it. So that'll stick in on that. Pretty golden on the bottom, so I'm just going to flip it. You can fold it quesadilla style. We can just go ahead and try flipping one, and I'll show you how the other one looks if it's folded. So this is the tricky part, so nothing goes flying off. All right, and then you just want to kind of press it down so everything sticks in. Oh, it smells so good. All right. I think the biggest difference is using this spiced chutney powder. I really love this one. The South Indian name for this is actually something called Chutney Pudi, but again, this you can get at some Indian grocers. This one's actually imported from New Jersey. It says suitable for vegetarians. Again, it's JAIN and has all the spices you really need for this dish. So I'm going to try and fold the second one just to show you what that will look like. In the meantime, I'm going to plate the coconut chutney that we're going to eat this with. Instead of the chutney, you can make like a lentil soup or dal or sambar to go with it. And see what that looks like. If you want to get fancy, you can even just garnish it with some cilantro on top. And this is what it looks like. So we'll serve this as a plate. And so I'm just gonna flip this so I get the other side as well. And this one that we flipped upside down, I'll show you what that looks like too. So that kind of comes out like this. And then you can fold it when you serve it, or you can serve it open like this. I also think if you top this off with some shredded unsweetened coconut, it looks really pretty. And just like that, you have your dish. Okay, so I'm going to teach you how to make your food look really pretty with an avocado rose. So you have to cut the avocado in half and you peel it. And you want a really good one that's nice and firm but still ripe. And all you do is cut really thin slices like this for the entire thing. You want them to be evenly sized. Alright, so now we have our sliced avocado, and we're going to just push it into a diagonal like this, just as long as you can. Kind of like that. And then as you're doing that, just start curving it a little bit. Oops. Okay, so you have it curved like this, and now all you're going to do is curl it in gently and carefully. Now if they slip out, just kind of tuck it back in. There you have your avocado roast. Now, right there. And you have a perfect garnish. Thanks so much for watching this video. If you liked it and want to see more cooking videos, kitchen hacks, and healthy lifestyle tips, make sure to hit subscribe below. Shout out to YJA and Navish for helping organize this live webinar. And if you have any questions or suggestions, please leave them in the comment box below. All of the recipes are now on Pinki's Palette, and you can check it out at www.pinkispalette.com.